I found out I was abusive from a post on Facebook. That's how I learned I'd been labeled a monster. Not in a courtroom. Not from a conversation. From a status update. Public. With 400 likes. And over 1,000 comments. My name is Caleb. I'm a 38-year-old single dad, or at least I used to be. Before the lies, before the court hearings, before the sleepless nights filled with silence from my kids' bedrooms. I wasn't always perfect, but I loved my children with every fiber of my being. I did the bedtime stories, the school pickups, the pancake Saturdays. I was there even when she wasn't. Her name is Morgan. We were married for 7 years. At first, she was everything I thought I wanted. Sharp, beautiful, passionate. We met in college and got married before we really knew what forever meant. I guess I kept thinking love could carry us through everything. But what I didn't know was, Morgan didn't want a partner. She wanted control. And when she realized she couldn't control me anymore, she went after the one thing she knew I couldn't live without: our kids. It started subtly. She'd forget to tell me about school meetings. She'd change the pickup times without notice. One week, I missed our daughter's piano recital because Morgan told me it was canceled. It wasn't. Then came the concerns. She started telling friends I was too strict, that I was cold with the kids. I didn't think much of it at first. I thought she was venting. But then she stopped answering my calls, blocked my number, and when I showed up at the house for my regular weekend with the kids, no one answered the door. 3 hours later, I got served. She filed a temporary restraining order, said I was emotionally abusive, claimed I yelled, slammed doors, made our home a hostile environment. There were no police reports, no CPS visits, no therapist reports, just her word and her social media army behind her. People I'd known for years, mutual friends, coworkers, even some of my own family, started pulling away. No one wanted to get involved. No one wanted to believe that maybe, just maybe, she was the one lying. But I wasn't going to let her win. Not like this. Not without a fight. Because when you take a father away from his children, when you twist love into leverage, there's a price to pay. And I was going to make damn sure she paid it. Sometimes, the person who claims to be protecting the kids is the one causing the most damage. If you've ever had your truth taken from you, I see you. And I promise, the story's just getting started. Drop a comment if you've been through something similar, or know someone who has, and subscribe so you don't miss. Because when I hit back, I didn't use anger. I used the law. I didn't punch walls. I didn't yell. I didn't storm over to her house demanding answers. I opened a notebook. That's how my war started. Every lie Morgan told, every missed visitation, every concern she fabricated. I wrote it down. Dates, times, screenshots. I didn't have the luxury of emotional outbursts. She was already ahead of me in the court of public opinion, and if I lost my cool even once, it would validate every lie she'd spread. So I stayed calm, calculated, and then I hired the best attorney I could afford, Melissa Chin. She was sharp, methodical, and didn't flinch when I showed her the restraining order. "This is weak," she said after reading it. "No proof, no timeline, just emotional buzzwords. We can fight this." It was the first time in weeks I could actually breathe. But Morgan didn't stop. She doubled down, started posting cryptic quotes about survivors and escaping toxicity. She blocked me from seeing any content directly, but friends sent me screenshots. She painted herself as the hero, bravely protecting the kids from a cruel father. And the worst part? Our children started echoing her language. My 8-year-old son, Jason, used to run into my arms when he saw me. Now, during our court-mandated supervised visits, he sat stiff, cold, like he was afraid to smile too much, like loving me out loud would get him in trouble later. Morgan had turned my children into weapons. But I didn't fight fire with fire. I fought it with facts. Melissa helped me file a petition to challenge the restraining order and request joint custody. It wasn't easy. The court system doesn't move fast, especially in family cases. But I was prepared to wait, to fight every day if I had to. We requested Morgan's full communication records, her emails, her text messages, her social media posts, and here's where things got interesting. Turns out Morgan wasn't as careful as she thought. She'd been badmouthing me in parent group chats, saying I should be erased from their lives, and admitting she only filed the order to keep him away long enough for the kids to forget him. That one message, dated, time-stamped, screenshot by another parent who had enough conscience to send it anonymously to Melissa. That was the turning point. I had proof, but I wasn't going to use it just yet. No, this needed to be done smart, clean, in court, because the only thing more powerful than the truth is the truth with receipts. Court day. I sat there in that stiff wooden chair, hands folded, eyes forward, heart pounding so loud I thought the judge could hear it. Across the room, Morgan was seated with her attorney, dressed in soft pastels like she was attending Sunday service, not a custody hearing. She looked calm, confident, smug, as if this was all just another chapter in her strong single mom narrative. But I wasn't the same man she had blindsided months ago. I wasn't raw. I wasn't panicked. I was ready. Her lawyer started with a rehearsed statement, full of emotional buzzwords: unsafe environment, psychological distress, protective mother. Then Morgan took the stand. And that's when the performance really began. She painted herself as a victim, said I had rage issues, that I once smashed a plate during an argument, and that the kids cried every time they had to go to my house. I could feel the courtroom shift, some heads nodding, some eyes narrowing at me. Then, she cried, on cue. But Melissa leaned toward me and whispered, "Let her keep going," because we both knew what was coming. See, Morgan didn't realize we had already subpoenaed her text records. She didn't know we had her private Facebook group comments. And she had no idea that one of her mommy friends, the one who took that infamous screenshot, had agreed to testify. She thought this was her show. But this time we wrote the ending. When it was our turn, Melissa stood slowly. No drama, no raised voice, just confidence. "We have reason to believe Ms. Morgan's claims are not only misleading but fabricated, and we're prepared to prove it." The judge raised an eyebrow, and that's when the bomb dropped. Melissa handed over the printed messages, highlighted, organized, cross-referenced with timestamps from Morgan's own testimony. Every lie, every contradiction, every moment she claimed to be fearful of me, followed by a smiling emoji, a brunch post, or a comment bragging about keeping the kids away until he gives up. Morgan froze. You could see it. Her breath caught, her body stiffened, her entire act unraveling one contradiction at a time. Then we brought in the witness, a fellow mom from school. Calm, credible. She took the stand and told the court exactly what she saw and heard in that parent group. And most importantly, what Morgan admitted when she thought no one outside her bubble was listening. It wasn't even close. Her final lie, her most public performance, became the rope she hung her whole case on. I didn't have to destroy her. I just had to let her destroy herself with her own words. The judge leaned back in his chair, expression unreadable. Papers shuffled. A pause. Long enough to stretch time itself. My heart wasn't beating, it was pounding. I kept my hands folded, eyes fixed forward, refusing to glance at Morgan. I knew if I looked at her, I'd see the same smug confidence she wore every time she thought she had me cornered. But I didn't need to see her. I already knew that mask was cracking. The judge finally spoke. "I've reviewed the evidence. Both parties have had an opportunity to testify and submit documentation. In light of the inconsistencies in Ms. Morgan's testimony and the substantial supporting evidence presented by Mr. Caleb's counsel, the court finds that there is no sufficient proof of abuse or endangerment." I froze. The air in the room shifted. The judge continued. "The restraining order is hereby lifted. Custody will be revisited and restructured into a joint agreement effective immediately. Supervised visits will end. Mr. Caleb is granted full legal and physical co-custody, including unsupervised overnight stays and school pickups." I didn't move. I didn't breathe. For a moment, it didn't feel real. Then I looked at Morgan. She wasn't crying this time. She wasn't screaming. She was just still, silent, like all the wind had been knocked out of her. Because for once, her words hadn't worked. And for the first time, the truth had roared louder than her performance. My attorney patted my shoulder. "You did it," she whispered. But in my heart, it didn't feel like a win. Not yet. Because the real victory wasn't in that courtroom. It was waiting for me at home. That night, I walked up the driveway to my small rental house. 2 backpacks waited by the front door. My son, Jason, stood on the porch, fidgeting with the hem of his hoodie. My daughter, Sophie, clutched a stuffed bear I hadn't seen in months. When I opened the door, neither of them ran to me. Not right away. Jason looked up. "Is it okay now?" he asked. I knelt down, arms wide. "Yeah, buddy. It's okay now." And in that moment, when they both ran into my chest and held on like they were afraid I might disappear again, I knew. This was justice. Not court orders. Not legal victories. Just the feeling of my children's arms around me again. I thought it was over. I had joint custody. My kids were home. And I was finally sleeping through the night without that constant knot in my chest. I thought Morgan had accepted the ruling and moved on. But I should have known better. She didn't lose in silence. She went digital. 3 weeks after the hearing, I started getting strange looks at the grocery store. Cold shoulders from other parents at my kids' school. Then one of my coworkers forwarded me a link to a Reddit post. Anonymous username. But I recognized the writing. The headline? "How I Lost My Kids to a Manipulative Ex Who Fooled the Court." It had all the classic Morgan tactics. Loaded words. Half-truths. Playing the victim without ever naming names. She wrote that the court system failed her, that she wasn't allowed to speak freely, and that her ex weaponized the legal system to punish her. She didn't say my name, but she didn't have to. Photos from our old family vacations were posted. Slightly blurred. Just enough to give her plausible deniability. Comments flooded in. Some people sympathized. Others got angry on her behalf. And worst of all, the story spread. Shared on Facebook parenting groups. Tweeted by small influencers. Screenshotted on Instagram stories with captions like, "See? This is why women don't speak up." Once again, she was painting herself as the tragic heroine, and me as the hidden villain who played the system. I felt the rage creeping back in, but I didn't let it take control. I called Melissa. We documented everything: URLs, timestamps, metadata. I knew this wasn't just defamation. It was a strategic smear campaign, designed to pressure me emotionally, socially, and even professionally. But this time, I wasn't going to wait for her lies to spread before responding. I went proactive. I sat down and filmed a video. Not dramatic, not angry, just the truth. I looked into the camera and told my story. Calmly, factually. I showed the court documents, names redacted. Shared my parenting history. I blurred my kids' faces, protected their privacy, but made it crystal clear. I had nothing to hide. I didn't mention Morgan by name. I didn't have to. The internet connected the dots. And then, it happened. Someone found her Reddit account. Matched the phrasing with old Facebook posts she forgot to delete. Someone else found the metadata on one of the photos she uploaded. It matched an old blog she once ran under her real name. The story flipped. Again. And this time, the internet didn't buy her version. People started calling her out. "You lied in court and came online to play victim? Nah. Imagine weaponizing your kids, then crying when the lie doesn't hold." Her Reddit post was deleted within 24 hours. But the damage to her credibility? Permanent. I hadn't heard from Morgan in weeks. No emails. No texts. No court notifications. Not even a cryptic post on social media. For a while, I thought maybe, just maybe, she was finally done. Then I got the message. It was simple. No emotion. No blame. Just, "Can we talk?" Just us. No lawyers. No court. It hit me like a punch to the gut. After everything she'd done. Now she wanted to talk? My first instinct was to ignore it. But curiosity has a way of whispering louder than logic. So I asked Melissa, my attorney, what she thought. She raised an eyebrow. If you go, don't go alone. So I didn't. We agreed to meet in a public park. Middle of the day. Neutral ground. But before I got there, I made one call to a longtime friend of mine, Carlos. He's calm, steady, and a retired cop. He didn't ask why I needed him. He just said, "Text me the time and location." I showed up 5 minutes early. Morgan was already there, sitting on a bench, wearing sunglasses even though it was cloudy. She stood when she saw me, nervous, hands fidgeting. She looked smaller than I remembered. Not physically, just hollow. I stayed standing. She started talking right away. I just wanted to say, I didn't expect it to go this far. I didn't say anything. She kept going. I was hurt. I felt like I was losing control. And then when you fought back in court, I panicked. I never thought you'd actually win. There it was. Not an apology. Just a confession of surprise. She looked up at me. I lost everything, Caleb. My job stopped calling. My mom barely talks to me. Even my friends, gone. I let the silence hang. She sighed. I thought if I could just make people see you the way I saw you during our worst moments, they'd understand why I did what I did. That's when I finally spoke. You didn't want people to understand. You wanted to punish me, and you used our kids to do it. She didn't deny it, didn't defend it. She just whispered, I was scared. I nodded slowly. And now you want me to forgive you? No, she said. I want you to understand I'm done fighting. She pulled out an envelope from her bag. Inside was a signed agreement. No more online statements, no appeals, no legal tricks. Just a clean slate of cooperation. She'd keep shared custody, respect the boundaries, no drama. And for the first time, I believed her. Not because she said the right things, but because she had nothing left to lose. I took the papers, walked away, and didn't look back. Carlos met me at the edge of the park. You good? He asked. I nodded. Yeah, finally. Winning custody was just the beginning. You'd think that once the court order came through, everything would snap back into place. That the kids would run into my arms like nothing ever happened. That the damage could be undone with a signature. But trauma doesn't follow legal timelines. Jason still flinched when I raised my voice, even when I was just cheering during a football game on TV. Sophie hesitated before hugging me goodnight, like she wasn't sure if it was allowed. They weren't scared of me. They were scared of what loving me might cost them. And that broke me more than any lie Morgan ever told. So I didn't push. I didn't flood them with questions. I didn't tell them how much I'd missed them or how angry I'd been. I just showed up every day. I made pancakes again. I left silly notes in their lunchboxes. I remembered their favorite bedtime songs and acted like I'd never forgotten them. Little by little, they started to open back up. One night, Jason asked if we could build a model rocket like we used to. Another night, Sophie fell asleep on my chest during movie night. And then, one quiet Tuesday morning, Jason looked up at me before school and said, Dad, I'm glad you didn't stop trying. That sentence, that made every sleepless night, every court date, every silent dinner alone worth it. We started going to therapy together, not because we were broken, but because I wanted them to know that healing wasn't something to be ashamed of. That asking for help didn't make you weak. It made you brave. And for the first time in years, our home felt like a home again. There were still moments. Of course there were. Days when Morgan would cancel a weekend last minute. When a stray comment from school triggered an old fear in them. But now, instead of shutting down, they came to me. They asked questions. They trusted my answers. They let me be their father again. And I didn't take a second of it for granted. Because when someone tries to rip your children away from you, not physically but emotionally, the road back isn't paved with revenge. It's paved with presence. It's strange how quiet life gets after the storm ends. No court dates, no lawyer calls, no surprise visits or inboxes full of screenshots. Just normal. School drop-offs, Sunday pancakes, homework at the kitchen table with Jason grumbling and Sophie humming to herself while coloring. And me? I'm still here, still standing, still learning. There were days I thought I'd never get here. Days where I felt like screaming into the void. Days where I looked at empty bedrooms and wondered if I was going to spend the rest of my life fighting shadows and false accusations. Days when I thought maybe the system wasn't built to protect people like me. Fathers who loved fiercely but didn't know how to scream the loudest. But here I am. And more importantly, so are they. Sophie just turned 6. She asked me to braid her hair that morning, and even though it came out lopsided, she smiled like it was perfect. Jason is thriving in school. He wants to be an engineer. He said he wants to build things that don't break easily. I think he was talking about bridges, but maybe he meant us. Morgan, she's still around. The kids still see her, and I support that. Not because I've forgotten what she did, but because I refuse to become her. I won't teach my children that love is conditional or that revenge makes you strong. Because the truth is, revenge didn't win this story. Consistency did. Patience did. And love, the kind that keeps showing up, even when it's been dragged through hell, that's what brought us back. People ask me sometimes if I'd do it all again, if it was worth it. And the truth? Yes. Every minute, every court appearance, every painful silence. Because in the end, I didn't just win a case. I won back my place in my children's lives. And no one can take that from me ever again. If you've ever felt like the truth wasn't enough, like the system was against you, like the lies were louder than your love, just remember this. Keep showing up. Keep being who you are. Because the fight ends. The dust settles. And if you stay true, you get your life back. Thank you for walking through this story with me. If it resonated with you, drop a comment. Share your experience. And if you believe in truth, in healing, in the quiet kind of strength, subscribe because there are more stories like this that deserve to be heard. Maybe next time, it'll be your voice we help tell.